The green room that's blue. Hello everyone, my name is Brian Newman. I'm president of McKinney Tea Party, and we're delighted that you're here tonight. And we are really delighted. We have a wealth of riches here in Collin County, like Mike said earlier, with our candidates. And here at McKinney Tea Party, our main objective with our candidates is to evaluate which ones are going to push back against big government, liberal government, the most, right? And that pretty much ties into what we did with the last president, right? It was who's going to push back against Obama the most, right? We need folks, when they get in there, that they're going to, if you're going to run for office, you might as well push an agenda. So that's what I would like you to think about over the next 2 interviews this evening. And we're delighted to have Philip Huffines here with us this evening. Welcome, sir. Philip. Philip, just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the race here. You started out pretty early last year. Just give us a little background. What made you decide to run? You've got a brother, Don Huffines, who's got a very high rating with Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. I think he's got a 99. Was he involved in that decision? I mean, how did you come about deciding to run for Senate District 8?
Well, thank you, Brian. Well, first, before we get to that, I think it's really important for me to point out kind of my political philosophy. You see, I'm a constitutional conservative. I strongly believe in term limits and very limited government. And it's important for you to know that I strongly know this as a fact, that our freedom and our liberties come from God, and that the main role of government is to preserve and protect our individual liberties and our freedom. And so I go with that thought process into any type of political discussion. And I've always been passionate about liberty and freedom ever since I was a child. It's just part of my DNA. It's just kind of how I was born. I've been active in Republican politics ever since I was 18 and voted for Ronald Reagan over Gerald Ford, and helped Governor Clements become the first governor as a volunteer when I was volunteering when I was at University of Texas back in the late 1970s. So I'm passionate about Republican politics and Republican philosophy, and have been my entire life. And I want to tell you this. My roots run really deep here in Collin County. For over 90 years, my family's been right here in the automobile business. In fact, some of you may have bought a car from my grandfather or from my father, and let's hope maybe you bought a car from my brother Ray pretty recently, hopefully. And my very first business I ever opened was right here in Collin County back in the late 1970s when I was in high school. And I had multiple locations, and it was on a little 2-lane asphalt road. And we had that business for several years until Ross Perot bought the location and closed it down. That was a fireworks stand. And that little 2-lane asphalt road is State Highway 121. And the reason I mention that is because it's important for you to know that I have been a part of Collin County's transformation from a very rural farmland environment to the urban environment mecca that it is today. And for the last 35 years, my entire business career has been right here in Collin County and building Collin County. And so the Collin County is the leading job generator of almost the entire United States. North Texas is going to create 100,000 jobs this year. And it's imperative that your next state senator be a business guy. A person like myself. See, I've got decades of experience and the leadership skills that are necessary to go to Austin and create results, to find solutions and create solutions to the very pressing issues facing the state of Texas and SDA.
Now, Philip, your family's ties go deep here at Collin, as you said. And Senate District 8 encompasses Collin, a little bit of Denton, and a little bit of Dallas. And you live in Dallas County. Is that correct?
Actually, the county line's in the middle of my street.
Okay. So my question now is, you were Dallas County Chair. How did you come about becoming Dallas GOP Chair? You're the only one here tonight who's been a Dallas GOP Chair.
I bet that's true. Well, let me explain. I have always been passionate, as I said, about Republican politics and being involved in the political process because I'm passionate about liberty and freedom. And I got a phone call a year ago last summer, and I'm on vacation, and the phone call says, Huffines, you've got to come to Dallas and run the Republican Party. said, why would I do that? It's in total disarray. It was in shambles. And I said, no, I'm not interested. And I got to thinking about that. The 11th largest county in the entire country being overrun by Democrats. And I said, okay, I owe it to myself. I owe it to a commitment. My father always told us at the dinner table, he'd say, boys, when the time comes, you have to give back to the community because the community's been good to us. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. So I ran for the office, got 80% of the vote with 3 candidates, and promised 3 things. That I would put the party on sound financial footing, take the fight to the Democrats, and unite the party. And I did that all in 14 months. And the party's the best it's ever been in the history of the Republican Party in Dallas County. It's got hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. When I took over, it had $150 in the bank. It owed $20,000 in past due invoices, and it was totally bankrupt and in total disarray because everybody was fighting each other. We had an election with the presidential election coming in. I was elected in September, and we didn't have much time to preserve and protect. I'll call it our flanks, our state reps, and we did that. And then we had the best Reagan Day dinner in the history of the party. I worked really hard to get Donald Trump Jr. there. And when I just resigned from the party recently, I wanted to make sure when I resigned, the party was in great hands. So we have a new chairman who's wonderful. She's a wonderful lady doing a great job. But when I resigned, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars left in the bank. And we got something I worked on very hard is a new headquarters and a new location. And something I'm really proud of, I spent many, many hours and months on it, is to get the Vice President of the United States at our Reagan Day dinner in Dallas County. And he's coming this February 17th to Dallas County. And that will put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the bank account. But I took my business skills into the political arena. I took all the leadership skills that I have and decades of experience, took them to the political arena, and made Dallas County the strongest Republican county party in the state of Texas in only 14 months.
Philip, when we say we have our principles that we recite at the beginning of meetings, and we've been doing a number of our meetings here. Certainly during the Obama years, fiscal responsibility took a huge hit. Now, the one that I want to ask about you tonight is rule of law. It's something that's really important, and we're still fighting right now. We've got sanctuary cities. Luckily, it looks like we have a president who's willing to maybe make a move on that right now. My question to you is, what does rule of law mean to you?
Well, that means that we should follow the laws, obviously, that are enacted. We have a Constitution that's very clear. The Constitution is our contract with government. And as you know, in the Bill of Rights, it's thou shalt not. And it's basically what the government shall not do. So our freedoms are protected in the Constitution. And I tell young people when I tutor in high schools that this is their contract with government. And it's amazing to me how little young people know. These aren't young. They're seniors and juniors in high school. About the Constitution. They get up and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag when I'm tutoring in class. And I say, okay, write me a paragraph on the definition of a republic. Because they say, I pledge allegiance to the republic. They don't even know the difference between democracy and republic. They don't know that the word democracy doesn't appear in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. So the rule of law is following the law that is laid out. And the laws are laid out not only in statutes, they're also laid out in court interpretations of the law. But is that
how would this apply? Yes, and how would you apply rule of law to what's going on with the DACA right now?
Well, I'm going to give you an example I read in the newspaper in an editorial section on DACA. Hey, this is a heart-wrenching issue. We've got children who were brought into this country illegally when they were infants or a very young age, and now they're mature and they're working illegally. And so it's a heart-wrenching issue. But this rang true to me when I read this editorial. And maybe it doesn't make much sense. But look, if a parent takes their children and jumps the fence and goes into an amusement park, and they get caught, security throws them all out. They don't let the children stay in the amusement park because the parents made the decision to enter the park illegally. So, look, we've got to make a hard choice. A country without borders is not a nation. There is nothing more important than securing our borders and protecting Texans and making sure that our border is secure. We need to disrupt the magnets that are attracting so many illegals coming into Texas. We've got free health care, free education, ample jobs. We need stronger E-Verify. We need to make the federal government pay for educating these illegal kids in our schools. There was a court case in the early 1980s that mandated in a very limited Supreme Court decision, 5-4, it was Tyler versus Plotter, that we had to educate illegal alien kids. But it never said who paid for it. So maybe there's an opportunity to get into the Senate and force action to make the federal government come and pay for all of the costs that we as Texas taxpayers are paying by the billions of dollars because they flood our hospitals, they flood our schools, and they take away our jobs.
Back in September, you said that we should look at these folks on an individual basis. What did that mean?
Well, I'm not sure how many hardship cases are out there or what the definition of that is. But like I said, it's a heart-wrenching issue. And I know that they can apply for asylum, they can apply and go through the court process, and I think it's a 2 to 3 year process just to get through the judicial system. I think there's 465,000 pending cases on illegal immigrants to get deported. So it takes a long time. And I'm not sure of the actual legal process on what that is, but I would assume that there would be some sort of a judicial process to deport.
The next question I have for you is, there's been a lot of chatter on the sort of the elephant in the room this week between the campaigns about the Texas Ethics Commission report. I believe one of your campaign advisors on Twitter mentioned a donation that the Paxton campaign got from a Republican that your brother defeated. My question to you is, what do you think about giving money to Democrats? Is that something we should be doing, or should we be taking money from people? I mean, I know that it's come out that you've given money to Democrats, and I'm wondering, like, why you gave money to Mr. Puerto. Is that something you want to address right now?
Well, look, let's be super clear. I have given over the last 30 years of my career, or 40 years in being active in politics, hundreds of thousands of dollars to conservative Republicans. I'm one of the leading donors to federal races, state races, local races, county parties, Collin County Party for years. I am one of the most loyal Republicans there is. I've given money to conservative organizations, conservative causes, from Jonathan Stickland to Ted Cruz, you name it. And so to me, the campaign's really about the issues. It's about the issues facing SDA. What are those issues? Securing the border. I talk to voters all the time. In fact, my campaign started many, many months ago, about 9 months ago, and we have knocked on over 60,000 doors, and we've talked to over 10,000 voters. And I know what the voters are asking and what is important to them. And they're telling me to go down to Austin, secure the border. And they're saying, huffines, while you're down there, do something about property taxes. They go up every single year. And then they're saying, do something about school funding, because the way we fund our schools is broken. Robin Hood doesn't work. And most importantly, huffines keep Collin County prosperous. We want to make sure that our children and our grandchildren have more opportunities than we have. And back to the very specifics. About 10 or 12 years ago, the most important thing facing the state of Texas at that time in the conservative movement was tort reform. If you recall, there was a big issue about doctors, and so what I focused on at the time in the conservative movement was tort reform. And as a part of that process, there were two couple Democrats who were pro-tort reform, and they were instrumental in making sure that TLR got its bills passed to make sure that tort reform passed. And that's where those two Democrats came up.
On your website, you have abortion was at the bottom. You did a letter for Roe versus Wade for the 45th celebration. Tell us where you stand on abortion.
I am 100% pro-life. I have always been 100% pro-life. And I participate in pro-life movement and organizations over the years. And in fact, just last week, I was downtown marching with Bishop Burns in the Right to Life March last weekend, and just a few days ago in Dallas. I protested in front of abortion clinics. I believe that life begins at conception and ends at natural death. And my entire campaign and my entire career has been focused on that. My brother Don is one of the strongest advocates, and he has a voting record on this pro-life movement. And so there's nothing going to deviate from that. I am 100% pro-life. My campaign is all about being pro-life.
So with what's left on the table from the 85th that didn't get passed, what are you going to see passed through the 86th legislature that did not make it through the 85th? What's going to give you the conservative street creds when you're elected?
Regarding abortion?
Abortion or whatever was left on the table on the 85th.
Okay, well, I'm 100% for the total abolition of abortion, just completely making it illegal. And I think it's important to know that for everybody to recognize that our pro-life movement has made a lot of progress in the last 20, 25 years. In the early 1990s, there were about 150,000 abortions annually. 150,000. Today, last year, there was about 52,000. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are making strong progress, and we've saved 100,000 lives a year since the early 1990s. But there's still too many. Right now, today, approximately 17 abortions occur every single hour. We've got to put a stop to that. It's murder.
How are you going to do that?
Well, you have to be careful when you discuss these bills on the floor, because the Democrats are filming it and they use it in the court cases against you. They use the debate and how you discuss these bills and Roe versus Wade. And until Roe versus Wade gets overturned, we're going to continue making progress in closing abortion clinics, defunding parenthood as much as possible. That's how we're going to make progress. The legislature has done a great job on that and helping with that process this last year. A lot of good pro-life legislation came out.
All right, thank you very much, Mary Angela. Thanks, Phil. Please stick around in the green room. We'll have audience questions after Angela. In the green room. The green room that's blue. Thanks. Please go on in.